What's everybody getting themselves into on this wacky Wednesday? You already know we at work decided to hop on, chop it up with individuals. See what's the talk of the town is going down. The word on the curb, you heard me. I just set this up. Here in Southern California, it is hot as fuck. We are in the 90s, so it is hot today. Not a good time to be out and about. Maybe wait till the sun goes down. Because, woo-wee, the heat is awfully caliente. But you already know. We at work, so just wanted to see what's up with everybody. Was in the hood. What's good with the folks out there. As for here, you already know it's still the same, bull jive going on. The political agendas, the protests, all of that. Even though, some people think that the protests maybe have died down, right? Because they're not as big as they were. They are still happening, and you still are seeing a lot of, shit. It's just that the news ain't covering it no more. But, I still see driving. I still see, marches and groups of individuals, with signs and everything. So we still have that going on here in Southern California. The mayor wants Cholos to be social justice warriors. I know, that's one thing that it just blows my mind. Like, for her to be like, you guys are being invaded by your guys' territory is being invaded by the biggest gang of them all, which is, I guess, law enforcement, right? Which, I mean, government officials, are supposed to line up with law enforcement, so it's weird for her to say that, right? Maybe she would have said Homeland Security or ICE, right? But, either way, it was goofy for her to say that, right? And to now actually acknowledge that this is their territories, right? When normally the agenda that they push is that you guys don't own this street, you guys don't own these places, you guys don't own this, land. But now at a convenience, it is their territory. Like, interesting. Cholos hate paisas. No, they don't. They don't hate paisas, but they don't, how can I say? They don't like to be, like considered paisas, right? And that is not because you hate for paisas, right? It's just that you're downplaying these individuals, what the narrative that they push, right? The work that they put in for their how can I say, their street cred, their street respect, right? It's kind of like you're trying to insult their street credibility by calling them paisas, someone who doesn't put in work. You get what I mean? So you're kind of pretty much calling him, just somebody who doesn't put in work, but is raza. I'm not gonna lie, I don't like being called paisa either, because I'm not a paisa. It's kind of like, there's even some people that don't like when you call them perro, because you're not a dog, There's individuals that get mad when you even call them perro, like, what the fuck, I'm not a dog. Just depending on the individuals. Saludos, did you watch the interview from the Norteños from Mexico? You should watch it. It makes a reaction of it. Oh, they did an interview? Norteños from Mexico? I think I had scoped out some. I don't know, maybe which one you're talking about, right? There's beef, especially the American Cholos. The American Cholo? With paisas and American Cholos? Oh, you mean like because they rob them because they just see them as an easy opportunity, but not because there's hatred there. It's kind of like saying, the black and brown, relationship and why they clash, right? People call it racial, but it's not because of racial issues or hatred, right? The same with the paisas, it works the same way. It's not because they hate paisas, right? It's just an easy opportunity. Because, like I said, these individuals are not, in the betterment of their people and stuff like that. They're in the betterment of, what's good for them, prioritizing their needs before anybody else's. You know, the thing I always say is that people always try to give like cholos or gang members, like they try to make them like it, like almost like honorable individuals when they're not, though. You know what I mean? Yes, they do have some good morals, right? But overall, their agendas is the betterment of the neighborhood and themselves. They're not individuals that you should be looking up to or grabbing clecha from. Because there is a lot of paisas that talk down on cholos, pues, they don't see them as real Mexicans, they see them as plásticos, como dicen. Firme, what's it? How's That's right, my boy. The OG, whoops, the OG American Cholo is a rare breed. Times were different, you know. What about Paisa Cholos, homies that have Paisa gangster vibes to them? Yeah, there is, and I have a lot of them in my neighborhood, right? But see, they put the neighborhood before anything else. Remember, the neighborhood is always going to come first before anything else. It's the barrio before anything else. So if they had to choose, what is it? The barrio or being paisa, they're going to choose the barrio, obviously. Yeah, it's a new Norteño interview from Mexico. They're called um, Cobras 14. Oh, shit. Orale, I'll peep it out. It's good stuff. I know that there's Norteños up there, obviously, Norteño gangs and shit like that. You know, just like you even have, Texas barrios in Mexico, right? Like Tejanos. You have, Mexican gangs that are from like Chicago that are in Mexico as well, right? Like La Raza, which is I don't know if they're folk nation or people nation, right? But it's a gang within um, Chicago. They're not sureños or norteños, and they're neither none of that. They're not Latin kings or nothing like that, right? They're their own gang that resides in Chicago because there is Hispanic gangs that are outside of sureños and norteños, like Tejanos or Novatos from New York or Chicago, places like that where they don't claim numbers or colors. Well, they claim colors, right, but just not blue or red. Norteños, Mexican in southern Mexico state, they're paisas. Just like um, uh, Yoshiloco de Florence, he was a paisa. Yeah, it's different. Serio, when it's hot as fuck, his homeowner was deported, but heavens, it didn't last that long in Mexico. One of the homies of mine is Paisa Cholo, good homie. Yeah, in Texas, we do have Aztecas, Tejano gang. Yeah, and many Hispanic gangs. They have just as many Hispanic gangs as like fucking Los Angeles. You know what I mean? Que South Moon, Bay Locos y que pinche El Paso, Cholo, Familia, nah, all kinds of shit, bro. You know what I mean? Que los malditos and all this and that, and they're not like sureños or norteños or nothing. They're Tejano gangs, raza gangs. America serving steaks and lobsters. But yeah, you do get a whole lot of that though. The military gets steaks and lobsters. Where, bro? Because there's a lot of them complain about how they get treated. For example, just look at recently there was this father who got arrested, right, and beat up, and all three of his sons serve in the military. There's this other guy who his wife got deported, and he's white. Keep in mind he's white. His wife was from, where was she from? Costa Rica? Well, I don't know what she was. She wasn't Mexican though, but she was from somewhere else. And she got deported, and they just recently had a newborn, and she was still breastfeeding. And this vato's white. He's serving in the military right now. And he's like, what? They deported my wife? What the fuck? Imagine that, bro. You're actually serving right now, bro. And these vatos are fucking taking your families. Like, what the? That is crazy, bro. Hey, but they say que nomás están llevando que los drug dealers and murders and all that, which is Trump's excuse always when he's on TV. We gotta get rid of these drug dealers, these murders. Yeah. That's why even Joe Rogan was like, you know what, man? Hey, this is not what I signed up for, eh? You said you were going to go after criminals and drug dealers. And look, bro, the more stupid shit that some of these Republicans do, bro, is that, these fools are protesting. What they want the criminals here. They want murderers to be here. And it's like, look, bro, if they're deporting criminals, murderers, drug dealers, nobody is out there fucking protesting against that, bro. Not one single individual's out there saying that, hey, keep them vatos here. Nobody's protesting that, bro. They're protesting because they're taking people who are not criminals. That is what they're protesting against, bro. No one gives a fuck about the drug dealers and the criminals and all them people. They're protesting because you're taking people that are not that. Goofball. But, they repeat the same rhetoric, bro. I feel embarrassed for asking this, but I don't understand what paisa means. Paisano, paisano is kind of like it's like a slang term. It's kind of like you call somebody who's like, that kind of like comes up from the same area as you, he's your paisano. So he's kind of like your fellow townsman. You know what I mean? You guys are from the same, area or whatever. Colonia, barrio, como dicen. Puebla. You guys are from the same town. So it's kind of like, townsman sort of thing. People always use like let's say their areas to try to, establish some form of connection with somebody, right? Like, oh, you're from the same area as me. Look at that. We're Californians. We should stick together. People try to relate to people like that. It just makes it easier to try to bond with somebody. So that's why, people say, hey, ¿qué onda, paisano? Even though you probably are not from the same area, right? But they say it as kind of like, breaking the ice type of thing. But see, here in the like say the gangster lifestyle, right? It means something completely different, though. Like let's say if you're calling a gang member a paisa, right? Because it's kind of like you're trying to downplay him, you're trying to insult him, right? By calling him that, you're trying to calling him somebody who doesn't put in work, because paisas just want to they don't want any problems. They just want to do their job and just go about their business, right? So they don't want no confrontation with nobody, meaning like here in the sense. Obviously, the ones from Mexico, yeah, they want all the smoke, but that's because they're in the street life, They just refer to them as paisas, but they're more like cartel members, if anything, Paisanos would be like the regular day folks, like the regular people that are not a part of no illegal activity. The planes are getting. The Liver King crashed out. The Liver King was sort of shit. That was a Trump forgot one. What's crazy like your dashboard? The farm rates and the packaging plants. China's move. Not only that, but they hit a lot of businesses. Okay. I was all in the deport till they started going for actual citizenship. But that's the thing though. I think everybody is on board on that. You know what I mean? I'm pretty sure there's nobody that wants criminals and drug dealers and people like that in their areas, bro. Nobody wants that, bro. Nobody wants that. Truth of the matter is, right? So I could see why he would use that, but see, Trump doesn't care about that. Trump cares about numbers. So to him, it's deport as many people as possible, just for him able to, brag about the number of people he's deported. Right? I deported, fucking 3 million. It don't matter if it was elderly, children, non-criminal. He just wants to present a number to America, and a big one too. He wants it to be big. That way, he could say that he did something, right? And that means by any means necessary to accomplish that goal. That's why they do they're doing the race, how they're doing them, stopping random cars and individuals. And I should know this because I seen it with my own eyes. You know what I mean? They put checkpoints and checking every car and asking for your fucking your paperwork, pretty much. And it's like, what the fuck? Discrimination, violating your rights, racially profiling, and the list could go on. Vice as a border brother. No, but that's if we're talking about the street terminology, because you have street terminology and then you have real life terminology, like what it really means, like, in the real world compared to what it means in the street world. You know what I mean? The Home Depot shit too. Yeah. Have you heard about the Chinese nationals buying hotels in the Bay Area? The other cash like millions of dollars. No, I haven't. And keep in mind too, that is not just the raza that this is happening to, but every other illegal ethnicity that's here, meaning Asians, Europeans, and fucking Arabs and everybody in between. They're also suffering from the same thing. You know, where my wife goes to go get her nails done, right? She was saying that how they had went into that business and they took several Asians, and the Asian workers are scared for their lives, bro. They're scared that they're gonna get deported, bro. They be paranoid. She was saying that when she was there, they were talking about it. They were paranoid as hell, bro. You know what I mean? So it's not. This is not just something that's affecting raza though, but it's affecting a lot of people out there. You know what I mean? You know, I have a vato that I know, right? He's from Ukraine. He's worried too. He's shitting it himself. Because of the whole war thing. They came over here, right? Because they didn't want to have to deal with that whole war and all the bullshit that's going on over there. So they're afraid they're going to get deported back to their home as well. So this is not just something that, Raza is worrying about, right? But a lot of people are worrying about, And this vato, man, he's not a bad guy, bro. That fool wouldn't even hurt a fucking fly, you know? And it's like, he just be working, bro. It just works. But these motherfuckers, they don't care. You could tell them the sad story. Hey, put your little violin away, bro. They don't want to hear it. They don't care to hear it. You say you just have a newborn. You can say that you never committed a crime. They don't care to hear your fucking story, bro. You're getting deported, and that's it. Final. Guatemalans. Oh, serio? See, I didn't know that one. Border Brothers is not the only paisa gang. Facts. In New York. You heard of the Cudahy mayor? Yeah, I just did a video about it, and that is so stupid. It's like, bitch, what were you smoking? He can't match Biden or Obama. Oh, no. He will never match. Nobody will break Obama's record, bro. Nobody's breaking Obama's record, bro. Donald Trump could try. He could try. He is not getting nowhere near how many people Obama deported. You know? Donald Trump so far has, barely hit the 200,000 mark. Obama deported 3 million, my boy. He's not gonna get close to that number, bro. He's not. People could say that that's a lie. Go look it up, bro. Go look it up, and then you can come in. We can talk about it. Yes, that fool deported way, way more people. But see, the reason why nobody made it a big deal about Obama deporting people was he was actually doing it the proper way, though. By the book. You know what I'm saying? When they would go and pick up people, they went with the fucking warrant in hand and with the list of people that they're only here for. Like, let's say there's probably other illegals in that business. They don't care about them. They're only here for the fucking names that are on this list. I'm here for Jose, Manuel, Gustavo, and Sain. So, you probably have Jesus there. That's an immigrant. You probably have fucking Pantifio, Aristides. They don't care. They're only here for the ones on the list, and that's it. We dipping. So they pick them up, they take them, okay, there it is. By the book. No one could complain there. Nobody could say nothing there. Hey, you know what I mean? They did it the proper way. Donald Trump doesn't go in there. They take anybody that they see, question them and fucking, and they don't even give them the due process, and they don't give the businesses, the establishment, because every business has immigration policy in effect, right? Like in case Homeland Security was to come, into their facility, there's a proper procedure for all that, right? How they handle the matter, right? So, there's a bunch of paperwork and legal work, right? Donald Trump is not trying to do all that, bro. That takes time, and fuck that. He's trying to please his fucking his support, his voters, right? So he's fucking, doing it the illegal way, bro. So these businesses are mad and complaining. Hey, what the fuck? You just can't be storming in here and doing whatever the fuck you think you want to bet. And that's pretty much Donald Trump's way. Oh, they try to question you, just ignore them and go and do what you gotta do. Okay, well, that's the orders given by the president. Fuck it. So they're doing everything the fucking wrong, sloppy way. That's why you have a lot of people complaining. Not only that, bro, you're not supposed to go in there with masks and everything. This is not fucking a third world country. You know what I'm saying? This is America. You're supposed to identify yourself, identify who you are. Fucking random fools in street clothes with masks and guns. How do we even know who these motherfuckers, if they even work, or who they working? How do we know these people aren't getting kidnapped? That's why it's not supposed to be done that way. They don't gotta worry about retaliation. This is not a country, where it's law, where they have no laws, where the governments are corrupted like that. They're supposed to provide identification. Same with law enforcement. What's your badge number? They're supposed to give it to you. Same with these individuals. Same with, the ICE and fucking marshals and all of that. They're supposed to identify themselves. Not come in there fucking trying to hide their identities and shit like that. You get what I mean? This is not that type of country. That shit is crazy, bro. And the fact that people have to fucking, be saying this kind of shit, bro, like, that shit it's insane. And I don't know why Gavin Newsom's acting like he's not to blame for this shit too. He is, bro. He wasn't doing shit about this matter, meaning before it escalated to where it escalated. You know what I mean? He was trying to pretend like California wasn't having a problem at the time. By the time they send the National Guard and all of a sudden this motherfucker wants to come out of the ground? Like, Gavin Newsom, you fucking suck, bro. I can't stand that fool either. I can't stand a lot of the Democrats either. They're stupid just as well as the Republicans. That's what I mean. Both sides have their fucking clowns to them. Fucking Gavin Newsom's over here trying to act like he's the fucking, like, the good guy in the situation. Like, bro, you're just a joke too. You goofball. He said you must be drunk. Have they ever asked you for that? That's why I have to now carry my birth certificate, a picture of my birth certificate, right, and my social security. and affect directly people who love immigrants. My son-in-law being one. Not that many constructions are because. But you're on here though. Have you got pulled over? Yeah, there was one right by my pad. You know, they are fake ICE agents that are doing. Yeah, not even pranks, bro. But they're taking individuals to come up, bro. To come up. Like I said, bro. Whenever you have any type of natural, like some shit going on, right? You're gonna have individuals that are gonna try to take advantage of the situation. Same with when we had the fires. Remember when the fires were burning everything and shit was hectic? You had individuals that were dressing up like firefighters, pretending to be firefighters, and going into these areas and breaking into some of these homes and stealing from them. You know what I mean? You're gonna always have individuals that are gonna look at this as now, for them to take advantage of the situation. So they're gonna put on masks and go and just take people. You get what I mean? And a lot of these individuals, they don't know what's going on. They don't know what's happening, right? So they just see some motherfuckers running up to them with masks and guns. Shit. Coming from where they come from, shit, it probably sparked all kinds of fucking childhood trauma memories. They're like, oh hell no, these fools are trying to kidnap me. Like, we had to defend ourselves. He was resisting arrest. Like, motherfucker, he didn't even know who you fools were. Because it's not how America works, it's not how America gets down. But times have changed. I saw a video of some guy wearing a nice jacket and bragging about eyes, but it's crazy what people do. But it's like it's to be expected though. Like, I don't have to provide no proper documentation to you guys, like, or they don't have to provide documentation to these people. Like, who are these people? Like, well, technically they're bosses, bro. Our taxpayer money pays for these motherfuckers' fucking checks. You know what I mean? They're supposed to identify themselves. So is law enforcement. Remember, law enforcement is supposed to police the people, not fucking rule over them, They're supposed to protect them, not to fucking, rule over them and do whatever they want. No. They have to answer to the taxpayers. When they have questions, they have to provide the answers. Because technically, they're their bosses. They're paying these fools checks with their taxes. You know what I mean? When they ask for your identification, they're supposed to identify themselves, not the other way around. Like, they're not, like, let's say if you didn't break no crime, if you're not doing nothing wrong, illegal, right? They just can't come up to you and be like, hey, stop, give me your ID. No? Why? For what reason? This is within your rights, though. This is within your amendment, bro. Like, well, no, you're supposed to give it to them. No, you're not, bro. No, you're not. That's not how this country works. You don't work for them. They work for you. Goofball. It's like, I don't know. People want to, always talk about law and shit like that, right? And always discuss this, but they don't even know their laws. They don't know what the law is. And it's different from state to state. Keep that in mind as well, right? So you always want to study the one for your state because it works different in different states. But it's always good to have that information. That way you're not just like some sucker out here. Because some of these individuals do power, bro. They feel like, no, that you do work for, that you have to do anything that they say. And without them having to provide you with nothing. They didn't pay attention, I guess, when they were fucking training to be a cop. Because a lot of cops don't even know their laws, right? Because that's not what they fucking, are teaching them, right? That's why if you ever see it, well, I don't know if, people ever have any run-ins with law enforcement, right? Whenever you start asking questions, they got to call their superiors, hey, do we got to do this, you know what I mean? Because they don't even fucking know. Right? Then you see a lot of times when the superior comes and he ends up letting the guy go because they were doing shit illegally. Even with search warrants and all of that, people really don't know how the law works. Like, hey, why did they throw that evidence out of the fucking court case? Like, because they obtained that evidence illegally? No, but it was something illegal. Yes, bro, but it wasn't within the warrant. It wasn't in the area that they only had permission within the warrant. The warrant's not like you get a warrant and now you're able to look, through all of their belongings. No, it specifically states, where and where and where. That's why the detective's supposed to do their jobs. That way they know exactly, what it says in the warrant, right? So if they obtain some illegal drugs or illegal guns, right, in a part of in a room that is not stated in the warrant, right, it gets thrown out. And why? Because the cop was too fucking lazy and sloppy, and didn't do his job right. Then now, all that shit can't even be used in court. Because even though it is illegal and they did have it, they obtained it illegally. Right? So that's why it's important, that they do their job in the right way. And it's like, well, that's fucking stupid. Well, that's how our law works, my guy. Maybe you should start voting more often. Goofballs. Every state has different laws. That's why I can't take. I don't know. No, yeah, but every state is different, though. Every state does have different laws to them. You know what I mean? I think that's something that a lot of people forget when they come on the internet and they're debating people, right? That they're forgetting. Well, see, it works different in their states. That's why, like people have to keep in mind that the law does change from state to state. You know what I mean? That's why sometimes, like, if you hear somebody and you're just like, nah, what the fuck? Nah, that's not how it works. Like, well, maybe where you're at, bro, but not we don't all have the same laws. Like, not every gang has the same rules. When people be like, hey, this fool, hey, man, nah, that's against the rules, bro. Like, I know some fool from a gang over here, and yeah, they can't do it. Bro, you're trying to attach their gang rules to this gang? That's crazy. That's like me trying to attach, California's laws to Texas laws. Like, come on now, goofball. It's not how it works. Yet they all run under the same umbrella, right? The United States. How's that possible? Well, let's not act like it's that really hard to understand. Now you see why the Southerners could have different rules and different, things, but yet fall under the same umbrella? Ta-da! It's not really that hard to understand, my guy. People are funny. Yeah. But that's what I like. That's what I be saying. Like when people try to attach different rules of different things to certain things, right? Yeah. And here, weed is like, All right, ladies and gentlemen, my lunch break is over. We got to get back to it. It was good chopping it up with you guys, and we out.